Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paddy Outback, and a few weeks ago I embarked on a fairly epic 5,500 kilometre trip from here in Townsville, North Queensland, all the way to Uluru, smack bang in the middle of Australia. And it was stinking hot the entire way. Since that trip, numerous people have asked me how in the name of God I managed to ride all that way in heat that hit 44 degrees in some places. Well, the short answer to that question is, I don't really know. The fact of the matter is that I didn't really have a choice but to do it. Like most of you watching this, I'm sure I'm just a regular Joe with a regular job, to quote the great American philosopher Denis Leary. As such, I had 2.5 weeks booked off work and I was going on that trip, and the weather was kind of neither here nor there. It was just something I'd have to deal with. I'm no stranger to riding in hot conditions. I learned to ride when I lived in Alice Springs, which regularly goes over 40 degrees in summer, and I now live in Townsville, as I've mentioned, which has an average daytime high of over 30 degrees for 7 months of the year. It's a tropical climate, so it's humid as hell too. As such, I do own a pretty decent collection of hot weather gear. So we'll go over that now, because it quite literally saved my hide on that trip. I shall start with my, I guess, trademark red jacket, which is an Alpinestars Runner Air, which I've had for over 5 years. I bought this pretty much around the time I got my first motorcycle. It's made out of a polyester kind of mesh. It is breathable, air gets through it, it keeps you cool when you are at speed on the highway. Does precisely bugger all if you're in slow moving traffic, but I think when you're in hot weather on a motorcycle in slow moving traffic, you're just going to melt anyway, and I don't think there's much you can do other than actually wear cooling vests. For a bit of added protection, I have put an Alpinestars CE2 back protector into it. The jacket comes with padded shoulders and elbows as well. Probably not the best jacket in the world in a crash, but when you do have to ride in extremely high temperatures, it's certainly better than squidding. Next thing I'll mention is my helmet, which is a HJC F70, which has numerous vents on above the visor and around the mouth. It actually does let a pretty reasonable amount of air through, and it's about as good a helmet as you could expect for a middle range helmet. This cost me about $500, and the fact that it's not black also helped. Next up are my boots, which are Alpinestars SMX1R leather vented boots. As you can see, they're made of perforated leather and textile, which does let a reasonable amount of air through to your feet, which means you don't have trench foot after about 15 minutes on the bike. And lastly, we have my gloves, which are, I can't remember the name of them, Alpinestars SP8 V3, and these are also made out of perforated leather and textile, and these are by a mile the best gloves I have ever owned. They're lightweight, and despite being made out of leather, they still do let a good bit of air flow through, which does help keep you cool when you're on the bike. Particularly at highway speeds, they're excellent. It's also good to have, I suppose, proper leather gloves, because they do provide a reasonable amount of protection in the event that you do go down. They also have padding on the knuckles, which is a good thing. Also, I'm just going to stick one on here. They are quite high on my wrist, which means that my jacket does tuck quite neatly in underneath the wristband here. This is important because if you wear short gloves and there's a gap between the end of your jacket and your hand, you will get brutally sunburnt on your wrists. Ask me how I know. I also just wore a pair of fairly standard riding jeans, which are Dry Rider on the trip. They were completely fine. You can get specialized hot weather riding pants made out of similar material to my jacket. They would probably be better in riding in hot conditions, and I do actually have a pair of them. However, they're really uncomfortable, and given the massive distance I was traveling, I decided I would wear the jeans as they are more comfortable. The gear alone isn't going to help you manage the heat without bother, though. There are a number of things you can do when you do have to ride on days that are going to be extremely hot to make your life a little bit easier. First thing is buy hot weather gear and wear it all the time. If you think that, oh, it'll be cooler in a t-shirt or whatever, it won't be. It will actually make the heat worse. Firstly, at that speed, the wind is warm and it's hitting you at 100 kilometers an hour plus, and that is going to strip every ounce of moisture out of your body in seconds, making you far more prone to dehydration. The second bit of advice I will give you is, I guess, a pretty obvious one. Get up at dawn, get your riding out of the way early, and be indoors or in shelter by the time the peak temperature hits. The best way to manage heat on a motorcycle is to avoid it as much as possible. Third bit of advice I would offer is think of how much water you'll think you're going to need on the trip. So what you do then is you double that amount and bring another extra litre just in case. Generally speaking, when I was on the bike, I had about 4 litres of water with me at all times. The reason for that was if I had a breakdown, if I had to stop for any extended period in the middle of nowhere, and I really was out in the middle of nowhere, it means that I would have more than enough water to get me through until help arrived. When you are in heat of 35, 40, even 45 degrees, you will drink a hell of a lot of water. So bring more than you need. Fourthly, it might be tempting to wear an open face helmet. Don't. Get a good full face helmet with good ventilation. Again, for the same reason that not wearing a jacket or proper riding pants on the bike is a bad idea. It will just strip all the moisture off of your face and will result probably in hideous sunburn, which will just make any effects of dehydration, heat stroke, etc. Come on quicker, and yeah, you don't want that, do you? Almost forgot. Bring lip balm. Seriously, you'll thank me. Next bit of advice I will offer is to make sure you eat salty snacks regularly. Obviously, when you are riding in extreme heat, you will lose a lot of minerals and salts and stuff through your sweat, and as such, keeping those levels up is extremely important. So, you basically have a ready-made excuse to eat a pie at every servo you pass. Drinking an occasional sports drink is also a really good idea to help replenish any electrolytes that you've sweated out. So I guess that's my, advice based on my own experience from my extremely hot trip to Uluru. I'm by no means an expert in the subject of hydration and all that sort of stuff, but this is what helped me out. I am a registered nurse, so I do have some idea. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for you. Any questions, throw them in the comments. Good luck.